It's a cold and rainy day out in the Nevada desert, and I'm on location here at the what they call the back gate of Area 51. Hopefully, there's not too much drizzle on my lens. You can get a good look at that, but it's descended to the point of something of a tourist attraction when you can walk right up to the gate like this. Back when I visited this place 30 years ago, this was unheard of, but here we are at the back gate of Area 51, and of course I drug my family along because that's what you do. So I'm going to use this as an intro for my review to the Area 51 Viewer's Guide by Chuck Clark. So enjoy, and I'll see if I can shoehorn some other on-location footage in after that review. Okay, this is something of an on-location book review. I'm currently on spring break with my family, and as fate would have it, we are visiting Area 51 at the insistence of my youngest child, I might add. My 10-year-old recently got a book, which I will be reviewing soon. This is a little kid's book she picked up at the school book fair about Area 51. That got her kind of a gateway drug of sorts, got her interested in wanting to visit Area 51, and here we are. Now, before I get into my book review, this really is a book review. I'm not going to take too long to get to it, but this is Area 51 and S-4 Handbook, the 2019 edition, by Chuck Clark. So this trip was especially nostalgic for me because 30 years ago, almost to the day, I visited the perimeter of Area 51 with some college friends, and we actually hiked up Whitesides Mountain and actually saw into the facility back before the Air Force annexed that extra land in, I think it was summer of 1995. So anyway, it was kind of cool to come back almost to the day 30 years later with my children, with my wife, and check it all out, and had much better video and camera equipment this time than I did obviously in 1993. So anyway, back to the handbook. So this is the Area 51 and S-4 Handbook by Chuck Clark, and I think this was originally published in 95 or so. 1995 is the original publication date, and it looks like from the notes in this has been periodically updated with new information as the years have gone by. This is very obviously self-published, home binding, but surprisingly really good information in this. For not that I didn't expect otherwise, but this was I was surprised at a lot of the detailed information about the workings of Area 51, a lot of good solid advice for if you're visiting, if you're exploring the area, stuff that's important to know about exploring in the desert and that sort of thing. And just some tips for not getting crossways with the base security. All good advice if you don't want to get shot. So, again, a lot of this dating back from the 90s, so you can get a good idea as to what some of the security procedures were back then compared to now. There's it ends with a good map in here that will definitely help you explore the area. So if you are making this trip to Rachel, Nevada, and you're checking out Area 51, you can pick this up at the Little Alien. I forget, I think this is $17.99. Well worth it. Looks like Chuck Clark signed it himself. It's, again, surprisingly really good information, and about, he breaks down some different satellite photos and shows construction over the years of different hangars and speculates about what may or may not be happening in some of the buildings. And it's all, he keeps it very real world, very, when he's speculating, he says as much. So I always appreciate that, because speculation is great, but speculation that's been kind of blurred into it has to be so gets a little iffy. So My only complaint, and this is a very minor complaint with this, would be he offers 3 possibilities for what UFOs could be, but doesn't really include, or I say doesn't include, the military option that this could be solely terrestrial technology. And I don't think that's I think that was um, just a very minor omission on his part. I don't think that he really meant to overlook that, because he spends the better part of this really exploring a lot of the terrestrial elements of the whole Area 51 mythos. So overall, great book. Highly recommend it if you're in the area, if you're going to be exploring Area 51. Really good idea. But I'm going to end with this. This is for those of you curious that want to come out here and explore and check everything out. Know that Area 51 has hit a point in the popular culture where they expect a certain amount of traffic, and they have made allowances for that. So just know that if you are approaching from the way they expect you to approach, you're probably not going to be seeing anything really super sensitive unless they want you to see something super sensitive. In my opinion, and this is again my opinion, my speculative take on this, I personally think a lot of the magic, so to speak, happens up north in the Tonopah Test Range and over in the Papoose Lake area. That's kind of southwest of Area 51 proper. So just my take on it. There's I think a lot of the things that people ascribe to Area 51 are probably projects that are actually conducted elsewhere, but Area 51 is kind of the most publicly known facility. But again, the Tonopah Test Range, I think, is probably a much more likely candidate for a lot of really super secret projects. But it's much harder to really find any decent vantage point into the Tonopah Test Range. So anyway, hopefully I'll be posting some more content here about my trip. We covered a lot of ground here, so trying to break it all up into videos that are watchable. I'll do what I can, but in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this. This is the Area 51 and S-4 Handbook by Chuck Clark. He used to live, from what I understand, he used to live there and conduct a lot of research in the area, and it shows. He is very thorough in his understanding of that area, even going so far as to explain how the workers are transported to and from the facility and how a lot of that unfolds. One of the guys in Rachel said that he had since moved to, I think they said he had moved to Phoenix or somewhere in Arizona. So anyway, great book, great guidebook for Area 51, and definitely well worth it if you're planning on doing any kind of exploring in that area. And I'll leave it at that.